want to do a wedding invitation based on Mr. and Mrs. Andrews by Gainsborough, and we wanted to have all this random stuff in there, and he was like, of course you do.
I'm going to read something into this painting you're not expecting.
When you first see it, it strikes you in one way, but the more you get into it, it starts to strike you in all these other ways.
What's brewing beneath the surface here?
She looks almost like she has a secret that she wants to tell.
You can imagine him in 10 or 20 years' time. He's going to be a rather overweight rake who drinks too much port.
His life is already coming unravelled. I love it.
Hi, I'm Waldemar Lustak. I'm the art critic of the Sunday Times and occasional TV presenter. Mr. and Mrs. Andrews is the quintessential view of the English countryside, particularly, I think, as imagined by foreigners, you know, the kind of people who come over to England in the summer. It's a beautiful sort of sunlit field with a lovely oak tree in the middle and this couple sitting there who at first glance seem to be an idyllic country couple.
I'm Christine Riding. I'm the head of the curatorial department at the National Gallery and the curator of British paintings. They are Robert Andrews and Francis Carter, and the two of them are sitting in a parkland with a view towards their estate near Sudbury in Suffolk, which was brought together through their marriage. So it is in fact a triple portrait of their estate and obviously of themselves. Gainsborough was born in Sudbury and knew the area extremely well, and the sense that this is very much evocative of the place, of a very particular place, is indicated really by these towers of the churches that you can see.
My name's Matthew Lawson. I'm the rector of Holy Trinity Church in Long Melford.
I'm Cheryl Collins, and I'm the priest in charge of All Saints Church in Sudbury, and both of our churches have the distinction of appearing in Mr. and Mrs. Andrews. Obviously, as a vicar, I love the idea that the church is right in the centre of the picture, which is where I think it belongs. Many of the Gainsborough family are actually buried in All Saints churchyard. There's the Gainsborough family mausoleum in the churchyard. The oak tree in the painting is in fact still there, and I think that's the landmark that people who are interested in the painting go to look for.
I think the view is very typical of the English countryside, lots of church buildings, lots of small villages. I think there is something rather nostalgic about seeing that then, and you can actually almost taste what it's like when you visit the Stour Valley now as well, because you'll look around and you'll see those church towers just like they were then.
There is a quirkiness about it, which has, in many people's minds, come to represent English eccentricity. I don't think it's that. I just think there's something really fun about this painting. I think it has quite a lot of tension in it.
My name is Philippe Fenner and I'm an illustrator.
And my name is Claire Doherty and I'm a sales coordinator for a brewery.
And we based our wedding invitation on the painting.
We wanted to use it but also give it a sense of humour, taking something so extravagant almost and making it like relatively everyday.
We thought that the people that would either understand the reference, that'd be really funny and that'd be kind of cool in itself, but there was a part of us that was, it'd be even better if people didn't understand the reference and just people just thought that's how we saw ourselves, so that's almost just as funny. For starters, the tricorn hat has absolutely no reference at all. I just wanted to be wearing a tricorn hat. I kind of wanted to keep the musket or the rifle in it. Claire wasn't so keen, understandably.
The lamb is from my hometown, Roscommon.
Fox is a reference to Leicester City, who's my football team.
I love a floral, in case you meant. So I just was wearing kind of a dress I had from being a bridesmaid, like a big long floral number.
Obviously Mr. Andrews has got these kind of big garters, so instead of doing that we thought, well, we'll have football socks.
So while it might not be the lands that we own, which is 0, we did want to infuse the picture with kind of a sense of place and ourselves, which I think was important to Mr. and Mrs. Andrews as well.
My name's David Evans. I'm a style blogger. I've got a blog called Grey Fox Blog, and this is one of my favourite paintings, I think, because of its Englishness and because of the style interest in it. His sort of undone coat and his slightly dishevelled and yet incredibly smart look is actually quite contemporary. A lot of men nowadays, they try and aim for that look where they might be wearing a suit, but they're actually looking slightly dishevelled, and it's a very English look and still is. It always has been. The sort of modern equivalent would be the English landowner in the slightly battered tweed suit, with his rather smelly Labrador and rusty old Land Rover in the background.
My name is Thomas Eisner. I'm a member of the first violin section of the London Philharmonic Orchestra. Mr. Thomas Gainsborough, well, we both have the same first name. He's actually buried very close to where I live. When I see this painting, the piece of music that comes to mind is Mozart's D minor piano concerto. I mean, the very start of that concerto is so sort of dark. It's leading somewhere, and I think the picture is leading somewhere, and it sets all sorts of question marks.
Hi, this is Jeremy Vine. I do like looking at this painting for all kinds of reasons. Believe me, I don't know much about art. It makes me react because I feel it's a bit like a cartoon. I think the artist is trying to be a bit funny and a bit clever. He wants me to lean in, and I do, because he wants me to be interested in the story of these two. Why is she wearing a fancy blue dress in the middle of the countryside? Why is he carrying a gun? Is he expecting trouble?
Mr. Andrews is fairly, he's a typical nice but dim country type. He's leaning on his rifle. He's been out hunting. But Mrs. Andrews, if you stop and look, she has got a really strange face. There's a very peculiar expression on her. It's a sort of mix of sort of anger and spite and something else. I don't know. It's a very, very strange expression.
I'm Adrienne Carter, also known as the Face Whisperer. I'm an expert in body language and facial expressions. When you look at her facial expressions, that's where it really becomes interesting for me. That sideways look. And then we look at the lower half of her face. And what we see there is, just slightly, is what we would call the emotion of contempt. And what that tells us is that she's feeling some sort of scorn or disdain or maybe some disrespect. It's a very distancing emotion. It puts people off.
Hi, my name's Alex, and I'm currently a young producer at the National Gallery. She kind of looks like she's sick of it a little bit. She's looking at the painter, but she's not looking directly at him. Like, she looks almost kind of like she has a secret. If someone took a picture of me looking like that, I think it would never see the light of day.
My name's Jennifer Bain. I am an artist, also a visual arts teacher at the secondary level in London, Ontario, Canada. This half portrait, half landscape, it draws me in because of the expression on Mrs. Andrews' face. That expression that's been interpreted as, this uptight, prim, proper, sort of smug smile, and that's one way to see it. To me, I'm seeing that as this look of disdain for Mr. Andrews. We're supposed to be captivated by this guy in his silk stockings, and I'm not buying it. Gainsborough's not buying it, and I don't think Mrs. Andrews is buying it either. This is a look you know. This is a look you can feel. This could be the face of quarantining with your spouse.
He looks to me like the sort of lad who didn't have many friends at school. He's now pulled tops. He's got this beautiful wife, and he knows, this is just my reading of it, that she's being unfaithful. And to me, I'm going to read something into this painting you're not expecting. That cloud, that silver-lined cloud, right in the middle of the sky in the painting, represents her lover.
I think that's one of the great things about great art, in a way, is that kind of we see in it partly what we want to see. I know that this painting was done very early on in Thomas Gainsborough's career, and I can't help wondering if there might have been a bit of resentment. Did Robert Andrews say, well, Thomas Gainsborough, this lad I went to school with, he does a bit of painting. I bet we could get him cheap.
The great portrait painters, and Gainsborough was one of those, if he was anything, are usually renowned because they capture some of that inner fire, the soul of the human being. What I I don't know if I want to know too much about the soul of Mrs. Andrews, certainly not in the way that Gainsborough has presented her.
If you are at a party and your friend was like, hey, can you take a picture of me? If you like that friend, you would try to take the most flattering angle of them. Gainsborough may have had some ulterior motive when he portrayed this couple. Maybe he didn't really agree with this marriage.
The thing that a lot of people, I think, miss when they walk past the picture is that it's unfinished. That in the middle of Mrs. Andrews' lap, there is a gap where there ought to be something. It's incredibly unusual to have a picture which is 98% complete, and yet there's this one lacuna in the middle, this one place where there isn't something. Once you do spot it, it becomes this mind lock. Why isn't there something there?
I think it's a piece of paper, or it's almost like the painter at some point had a laugh and gave up.
Maybe she wanted to be seen as someone clever, writing something.
I mean, it was probably left, I feel, for a child. Like, eventually we'll paint in the firstborn child.
It's either a dead pheasant, and she's clutching it by the tail, or it's a hat. I'm inclined to think it's the dead pheasant. The way it's been sort of caught is that a rumination upon the male-female relationship by two blokes saying, well, now you're getting married, she'll have you by the pants.
Given that they all knew each other, it's perfectly possible that there's some sort of gorgeous in-joke going on. There's something that only they are going to know about. And it certainly has encouraged people to talk a lot about this painting. So, maybe this is a pretty savvy move. Put something in that's a little bit odd, and then you'll get people for the rest, subsequent centuries talking about what is going on between those two. Why does she look so fed up? I mean, it's worked. It's totally worked.